All content provided on this podcast is for informational, entertainment, or educational purposes only. Listeners are encouraged to consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.
July 23rd and 24th, this Thursday and Friday, the Pharmacy Compounding Advisory Committee is going to meet at their White Oak campus to discuss 7 extremely popular peptides.
Go Bobby Kennedy.
Welcome to the Human Upgrade Podcast.
Welcome to the Human Upgrade Podcast, where we break down the science and strategies to optimize your body, helping you live longer, sharper, and stronger. Are you ready for your upgrade?
Well, John, you know my stance on peptides. I know your stance on peptides. But now we're going to find out what the FDA, what their stance is on peptides. First of all, do you know the 7 peptides that they're going to review? Were you aware of that?
I'm aware of like 4 of them. I think C-Max, Epitalion, the DISO.
DSIP, Delta Sleep-Inducing Peptide.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other ones, I kind of got lost after that, but what were they?
So day one, they're going to review the Wolverine stack. They're going to review BPC 157, TB 500. I know for people that don't know about peptides, it's just funny when we're talking about this, it totally sounds like we're speaking in code.
Yeah, right.
But just for those of you that don't know the names of all the peptides that we're talking about, these are really, really popular. So the BPC, the TB, KPV, which is a very powerful antioxidant, and MOTC, which is mitochondrial upgrading, basically is what it is. So they're going to talk about those on day 1, and then day 2 is the DSIP, which is the Delta Sleep-Inducing Peptide, Epithalon, which works directly with the circadian rhythm and works with decalcifying the pineal gland, and then C-Max, which had the funny thing on that one, there's not a lot of data on it here, but there's a truckload of data on it back in the days of the Soviet Union. That was huge for them as far as cognitive function and things like that. So so do you know what do you know, John? What's going down?
Well, the thing that they're obviously trying to see which schedule they're going to get those in. Is it going to be 1 or 2 tier? Because a lot of them are in the 2 tier right now. But I got to say, California has its faults, but when it comes to peptides, they're pretty good. Like, for example, I can get all the, recover and repair peptides, your BPC, TB500, the copper peptide. I can get the health and longevity ones. I get, Cimarelin, Tesamorelin, CJC 1295. There, all of those you can get here. The brain and mood ones, the one C-Max, DSIP. You can get Epitalium. So we can get a lot of things, even the KPV and the glutathione, the thymosin alpha
beta 4?
Yeah, alpha 1, not 4.
Oh, yeah. Thymosin, yep.
Yeah, and you can get the sexual wellness ones, the PT 141, the Kisepeptin, and those ones. You can get all of that in California. So as long as you get it from a compounding pharmacy. So if
and you also can get mushrooms in Oakland, and you get crack pipes in San Francisco. So
not legally. You could get a pipe, but they're not going to say it's a crack pipe. That's how ridiculous it is. But yet, hey. They give us red 40, but you can't have peptides. It's just crazy to me.
Let's actually talk. I really like. Let's go down that road instead of us just going through all the legalities of it. So what you said is absolutely true. All these peptides are basically they're going to see if they're allowed to be compounded, and that basically means that your doctor could prescribe you those, right? So that's what that's all about. But I'd really like to talk about this whole thing with the FDA, and their big thing is that these things haven't been studied enough for human safety, and we're concerned about your health. Do you believe any of that, John?
No. And I'll tell you why. Because first of all, how is it that they're okay with cigarettes? What studies show it causes cancer and all this other stuff. So many other things, all these drugs, when you look at all the ones that are FDA approved, every single one of these has all these health risks. Now just listen to a commercial when they're talking about a drug, and then they speed up all the side effects. So how is it that they're okay with those, but peptides that you take them? I know so many people that take them, and all I've seen are good results. I don't see any of these side effects that a lot of people are talking about. Now, yes, can you have someone that's going to abuse them? Sure. But if you take it the correct way, you start out low, and then here's how you should take anything. I'll just tell you this right now. If you were taking steroids, if you're taking any drug, you start with the lowest dose. And you know where I got this from? A seminar I went to. when they were asking a certain pro bodybuilder, how do you know how much your steroids you're taking? He'd say, for example, Anadrol. He'd say, I bump it up a half at a time, and the minute I started peeing blood, I would back off. And so that was his logic. Well, guess what? If you take all your peptides or any drug and you start really slow, you see how it affects you. And if you're feeling results and you don't have any, side effects, keep taking them.
Yep.
But, these people start out and they just want to, balls to the walls right away. Like someone, who took, I think 10 mgs of one of the GLPs and was barfing his brains out. I mean, you just don't do that, right? So if you have someone healthy that is using these peptides wisely, what's going to go wrong? And, I've also looked into the BPC and the whole, angiogenesis thing that they're screaming about, it makes tumors grow, is all BS. And it's just another way to make people scared. But that pathway won't affect tumors. And I got the study to show you if you want. I can,
I'm hyper aware of exactly what you're talking about with the BPC. Angiogenesis does not go into like cancer cells whatsoever. Right. So yeah, I know. Well, okay, a couple things I want to talk about there, and I'm going to get to the big issue that you brought up right away. But talking about taking peptides responsibly, and I the backing up pee and blood thing, I have heard stories like that before. Yeah. My thing's always been like, hey man, why do you want to hit something with a sledgehammer if you could use a tack hammer? So always start light. And take, for example, I mean, you're looking at it right now. I mean, I am literally like, well, I would have said the pastiest white guy, but I'm doing a podcast with John Turk here. So
yes, you are. I'm the pastiest guy you'll ever see.
Right?
I take my shirt off. You got to wear sunglasses.
You put the cock in Asian.
Yeah, so, right.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Indivive.com. Let's be real. Figuring out healthcare as a freelancer or gig worker is stressful, but skipping the doctor isn't always the answer. Indivive connects you to affordable, basic telehealth care built specifically for those of us without corporate benefits. Take care of yourself. Go to Indivive.com today. INDYVYVE.com. And Fearless Fitness. Your best results start here. Go to personaltrainersandiego.com.
Like this summer, for example, talking about the benefits of peptides, obviously I'm taking the melanotan 2 or the MT2. We talked about that before. And I don't want to burn this summer. And I knew we were going to spend a lot of time at the beach, at the lake. I'm going to be out there. I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot. So we're, all of the research points to taking about 250 to 500 micrograms. I'm taking 100, maybe 100, 150 micrograms tops. And I maybe do it 2-3 times a week. And I've gotten fantastic results. I could see, and I do know someone that took more than she should have. And I'm not throwing any names out there, but this person quadrupled their dose and spent an entire day throwing up and having diarrhea, even taking the small amount that I take, I can kind of feel it in my stomach. So point being is if you're taking things responsibly and you're basically doing it to take charge of your own health, then I just don't see why the FDA has to get involved. Now, you talked about the FDA when it comes to the drugs, and I want to go back even further of my distrust of the FDA. Weren't they the organization that created the food pyramid, the one that we grew up on?
Yeah, they created all the garbage that we have.
And now we have a nation of diabetics. Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
So and it's just like, it just goes to show you, and I don't want to be, this is not political. This is not partisan political, but this is political, that everyone should agree with this. They're not doing their job well.
Yeah.
The FDA fails us time and time again.
Yeah, the FDA is also giving Big Pharma a pass on vaccines. There's no legal liability. You can just make them and put whatever you want in there. You can't sue them for all vaccines. How much kind of BS is that?
Yeah.
But here's a peptide that I'm going to take on my own. I'm going to monitor myself, do it wise because I'm sick and nothing else is working. And that's bad, right?
Do you know how many truck drivers I have seen? I'm talking at least 15 to 20. And we all know, again, we've talked about this. You and I have talked about this before, but you take a look at the lifestyle of a truck driver, sitting in a truck all day long, going gas station to gas station, fuel station, whatever you want to call it. And take a look at what's in there. You got the wheel of death with the taquitos and the sausages and all that. Every now and then, if you get like a bigger, nicer one, like a Love's, they will have like a little thing of some hard-boiled eggs or something like that. But for the most part, there's nothing healthy in there. All of these guys are just eating absolute garbage, and they're all morbidly obese. Well, enter retatrutide. So I know
Right.
many of them that are taking that GLP-3, the triple agonist. These guys have lost anywhere between 30 and 80 pounds. They're all getting off their statins, their blood pressure meds. They're all coming off their metformins, and it's changing their lives for the better. So what I
Right.
can't understand is, why would the FDA, if they truly cared about us, why would they not try to speed up at least more research on human I mean, there are so many obese people out there that are probably like on their last leg that would gladly sign up for medical trials monitored by professionals,
Mhm.
Nope, nothing like that. And you and I
Yeah.
both know what it is. And I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to have the feds here any minute. But it's because these politicians, especially in the state of Alabama, where we have some of the strictest peptide laws, no one cared about peptides until the GLPs showed up. Like, if you got like some guys like you or me that got a shoulder injury, we're taking BPC 157 and TB 500, maybe throwing some copper in there,
Right.
what's the big deal? But when you're seeing now, I believe I saw something like all medical insurance cases, 10% insurance claims now are going towards GLPs. That's huge. So
Yeah.
if they see that people are able to get these medicines cheaper without their, I guess you could say, their blessing, they're going to go after it, because not only does that lead to weight loss, but all the drugs that they're going to be off of. And that
Yeah.
means a whole lot of money is going to be lost by your Eli Lillys and Pfizers and everybody else. So I'm trying not to be, I guess, just downright flat out hatred towards these people in the federal positions in the FDA that are making these calls, where people are actually getting better, and they're going to try to stop that because they're not making their money. That
Yeah.
means that they do not care about our health at all. And why do we still pay their salaries? That's where I'm at. I mean, what do you think?
I agree 100%. I think big pharma runs everything, especially after COVID, when I saw what they did with the vaccine and how all the doctors went along with it, even though they knew it was wrong. It's disgusting. They all broke their Hippocratical oath, but yet, you're going to get down on people over a peptide. Show me some, people that got really screwed up over it, that had mass like side effects, like the COVID vaccine. You're not going to see it with peptides. Peptides is a naturally occurring compound. It's basically, a chain of 50 amino acids or less. Amino acids is what's in our body. It's, creates all reactions. It's the simplest form of a protein. How is that unhealthy? And we know a majority of these side effects, if you have them, you just back it down a little bit and they go away. You find the right balance, and you got yourself, something that is a great tool to fight the underlying condition you might have. Whereas putting a mask on it with a drug that all it's doing is treating the symptom and not the problem. Whereas a peptide treats the problem. And that's where the medical community gets mad, because it's getting rid of so much of their drugs. Look at with C-Max and Epitalion and those, you're going to get rid of all the benzodiazepines, right? They're all gone.
Exactly. That's exactly your Xanaxes and all that stuff. History.
And you know where you're going to get kickback too, Mike? So those benzodiazepines, they're on the low level list now, because you can get them on generic for like $5. The ones that they're going to start worrying about are the ones that are newer, they get a fortune off of, right? So when you look at peptides, all you got to do is find whatever drug on the market is they're treating it, look at the cost of it, and then look at a peptide. They can't have that peptide on the market if their drug is out, because it's going to completely wipe it out, and they're not going to make their money off. Back when I had all my vax injuries, and I was having all these, anaphylactic shock and stuff, getting sent to the hospital, I had to have an EpiPen everywhere I went. You know what the EpiPen was? It's a life-saving drug. $500 for one EpiPen. I couldn't afford it. So I was taking a risk, to not have an EpiPen anytime I went out. You know what they cost now? $5. $5. So the same thing happens with any of these drugs. Could you imagine if you had a peptide back then that took over in the place of, an epinephrine pen? There goes your $500 on a pen on a peptide that costs you way less, which I'm sure there's a peptide for that, Look at how many of these news stations are supported by Pfizer, Moderna, all these companies, Eli Lilly, making these blood pressure medication. That's another thing. You don't want you to come off blood pressure medication.
Oh, can't have that.
Yeah. So, there's so many things peptides are going to be doing that are going to cause problems. And that's where this all lies.
I remember when we went our honeymoon over to Europe in 2017, all these countries that we went in at night, I'd be like, I wonder what they watch on TV. I'd turn it on if we get back late or whatever. I didn't see one pharmaceutical ad, not one. It was like, wow. I mean,
you can't advertise in other countries.
Ask your doctor about so-and-so, and you ask him about it. It's like, let me get you a script for it. But then if you would ever ask him for something like, being a 52-year-old man with low testosterone levels or 62-year-old man with low testosterone levels, you say, hey, can I get a script for tests? Like, well, they got to think about it. But if it's like, hey, can I get on antidepressant? Sure. And this is me putting my tinfoil hat on. I think it's even more sinister than we realize. Like, obviously, big pharma makes money with the drugs, but then take a look at the food that they're feeding us that get us sick to have to take those drugs. So the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, I personally, I mean, what if I ever became a dictator, they would need to flee the country immediately. And all these people, all these families that suffer, all these people that suffer from literal greed, to me is despicable. And it makes me sick. So when I see things, and again, I'm someone that does use peptides, and I know the benefit that they've had for me and my injuries. Right. I've seen it work with other people, and to see how they're trying to just keep it where it's, okay, you can't let people get their hands on these. I mean, can you imagine driving down Skid Row in LA, like 55 blocks now? I don't think you're going to be going down Skid Row being like, hey man, that dude's throwing some KPV in his veins, man. Look, I mean, it's like, so if I need antioxidants, man, I mean, it's like, I just don't understand.
Yeah. What's kind of scary though, is when this committee meets, the thing that they're going to be deciding, like say, for example, the tier 2 that is allowed in California, they could say, forget it. And they could take those all off. So here we could have them all, we're using them. And then all of a sudden, sorry, well, we're not going to let you use them. And it's, whether or not the compounding pharmacies can keep mixing them or not. That's the part that makes me a little leery. How's that even on there? We have it put on tier 2. Doctors can give it to us. And now they're talking about removing that. You know how that happened? Big Pharma got involved.
Oh, yeah. Well, and what it's going to do is let's just take, you and I are literally the perfect example. Black and white here, or tan and not tan, if you will. But let's, I mean, like me, I'm willing to roll the dice with peptides. Like I was like, okay, I did my research. I've talked to tons of people. I saw my certificate of analysis and all that good stuff. I'm going to go to the free market. Peace out. I'm handling my own health. Where someone like you that has had a lot more health issues that I have as far as surgeries and injuries and all this kind of stuff, and your being injured from vaccines and all that, you're someone that would want a compounding pharmacy to be able to have a doctor write you a script to get something like that, where I'm over here getting it from everything looks good on paper. I sure hope it's on the up and up. You would know for sure you're getting it there. So I would much rather do it the way you're doing it. But as long as the FDA is going to keep playing this happy horse shit, sorry to put it bluntly, I'm not going to be part of their game. I'll just do it myself. And then what you're going to see is when you do get peptides, they're all going to be research peptides for research purposes only.
Well, the bottom line is the whole reason I think for like this meeting and stuff is that, in 2023 during Biden, they had that, all that real tough restrictions came down where not even California, anywhere could you get any of the peptides. RFK brought them back, and now they're doing this thing again because they're talking about going back to the 2023. They act like they care so much about people, and they really don't. They're driven by money and power. That's it.
What do you think is going to happen Thursday and Friday? How do you think it's going to go down?
Well, I think a lot is riding on RFK to get this pushed through, because that's why a lot of us in the health field were, really happy when he got put in. But, I like that he's getting a lot of the bad chemicals out of foods, but the peptides are really important. He's got to really push for that. And he's getting a lot of pushback. That's why this has happened. And the other side of the table is Big Pharma trying to get it off. And on our side, we got other doctors, that are pushing for it. But what bothers me, though, is they act like the doctors that are pushing for these things, the same ones that were called quacks during COVID because they didn't agree with the vaccine, which every one of them was right now when you look back on it in hindsight. They're going to say the same things about these people. It's quackery, it's this or that. Where's the science? Where's the science? That's what we're doing. We're testing right now. We're going through it, and there's good promise, right? But yet your science has shown when you look at drugs that it's detrimental to health, not positive. all you're doing is getting rid of a symptom. So these people are complete and utter hypocrites, and everything that they say that our side is that wants peptides, their side is doing the opposite, and it makes no sense at all. But yet they claim to be the, you know, the experts and the regulators of, you know, our health. And all you got to do is, you know, Julie and I do that ministry at the convalescent home. Mike, we see it all the time. Everyone in there is a diabetic or has heart disease, is bedridden, and are just completely falling apart. We had one resident passed away, and it was just really discouraging. We go in there and see her. She couldn't even eat anymore. She was on a bag of like whatever this green stuff and orange stuff was that was in her IV. I gotta imagine it was a bunch of junk that was probably slowly killing her. And that's what you're up against on the public end of your healthcare. So if you get stuck in one of these places and you can't afford it, and that's why you're there, you're going to more than likely die if you don't really get yourself, you know, up on your feet and taking care of it. So it's sad, and it's just it's got to end. You know, there's so many things we can do positive now with people's health that is called evil when it's the other way around. You know, evil's called good on their side, good is called evil. You know, evil, and it's just sad. It's really sad, the state of our health, and it needs to be fixed. I think if you want to train harder, you want to recover smarter, you're going to have more longevity with the Human Upgrade podcast. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.